Hey NSYNC drummers over here on YouTube. I just wanted to take a second right at the beginning of this video to tell you what the heck it is and to explain what's going on. Over in my NSYNC drummers community, we've recently started doing a monthly Q&A where my members get to submit questions and topics for discussion all in the world of worship drumming. So these videos will pretty much be, you know, a handful of mini lessons or just discussions around stuff we deal with as worship drummers, and I do think that it will be beneficial to the wider sort of worship drummer community. That's why I wanted to release it here. And if it makes you think, hey, I'd love to be in that community where I get the chance to, you know, submit questions or topics for discussion as well, then hey, that'd be cool. The link to take you there is in the description, and let's get into it. All right, so the first question is from Paul, and this is what he asked. I am learning what a beautiful name, and like other songs, they have repetitive notes. Example, the above song has verse 2 times 8 and then chorus 2 times 10. How do I count them to get the quantities correct? I hope that makes some sense. Cheers. So, Paul, firstly, thank you for the question, and I'm glad to talk about this because it is something that I used to struggle with a little bit. So, you probably can't see it in the video, so I will overlay the PDF. For verse 2, on the top line, it says times 8, right? So let's firstly just figure out what times 1 would be. So one of them is, so that's 1. Now, I used to count kind of at the end of the bar, like, that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4. I used to count like that, and that can work, but I found a better way for me is to count, like I'll say in my head 1, the bar number that I'm starting. So I'll say 1, 2, it's my third bar, and 4. Now the fifth one, now 6, now 7, now I'm in the 8th bar, and then I'd be into the chorus. That is how I like to count it, and it just helps me, I don't know, for some reason counting like the completion of a bar for some reason got me stuffed up, whereas counting the bar I'm starting just helped me a lot. So the next question comes from Timothy. The question is, hi Sam, I'm playing with the worship team on May the 7th, and one of the 4 songs on the schedule is God So Loved. My question is, due to my lack of proper training on the drum, so I apologize in advance. When playing the main groove, why is it important to alternate the snare hits with my right and left hands? It's challenging for me to hit the hi-hat with my right hand after my left hand has just played the snare with my left. Am I doing something wrong, or is this something I need more practice time with this move? Thanks for your help. Okay, so with a couple of these questions, I have gotten back to them just so that they could receive help sooner, but I'm including it in this video to help everyone else and to kind of start to, you know, demonstrate what these Q&A videos could be about and could include. So we're talking about, Timothy is talking about God So Loved, which is this groove here. And he's talking about, okay, why do we have to hit the snare with our left? Because it's to start with, and by the way, there's a thing to do with our brains. When our right and left cross over, it actually changes kind of which part of our brain has to control that hand. Like, it's based on like our visual, like what we're looking at. At least that's what I was told by someone in the medical profession, and I hope it's right. But I definitely relate to the fact that, you know, when we're in this position, it's all good, but then when we have to cross over, stuff gets a bit confusing. So, why are we playing the left hand on the snare instead of just using our right hand In my response to Timothy, after explaining why, I said really the main goal is to get the kicks and the snares and the hi-hats in the right timing. And as long as it sounds correct, then that's fine. If we're using a different sticking, then that's kind of secondary to the main goal. So it's all good if you do use a different sticking. But the reason why I'm playing a left hand on those snares is because I'm basing this in single stroke roll. So right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. And I do this is kind of my default. I'll usually try and use the single stroke roll to play what I'm hearing, like if it kind of is needed. Like in this situation, you can hear 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and constant 16ths. So that's the main thing that's happening on the hi-hat, and then it's trying to just fit the snares in at the right time. And because I have practiced my single stroke roll a lot, I just use that as kind of the tool to make this groove happen. And let me quickly break down the single stroke roll. I'm sure you can all play right, left, right, left, right, left. And if it's a pattern that you're not super confident or comfortable with and it doesn't sound super clean, then put a lot of time and effort into it because you will use it a lot. Where was I going with that? So, based on single stroke roll, okay, breaking it down, right? The single stroke roll is a right hand, if we're doing it in 16ths, so 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and the right hand will be on every number and every and. So 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and the left hand will land on all the E's and the R's. So 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and R. The single stroke roll can be played left hand lead, so those rolls would be reversed. But for the most part, like 99.9% of the time, I'm playing it right hand lead or right hand led. And so in this situation, 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and For God So Loved, the snare hits happen on the R of 1 and the E of 2. And remember, we were just talking about the left hand plays on all the R's and all the E's. So if a snare is going to be played on the R or on the E, the stick or the hand I'm using for those notes is my left hand. So 1 E and R, it's just automatically my left hand based on the single stroke roll. So because of that, I'm going to move down to the snare with my left hand. 1 E and R, 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and the same for the E of 2. That's an E, so it's going to be my left hand. So it actually, the reason why I do that as much as possible is because it takes away that step of thinking, oh, which hand should I use or what kind of sticking should I use? I mostly default to the single stroke roll because it can be used in most scenarios. Now that it's a very powerful thing because it makes it like quicker and faster is the same thing. Quicker and easier for me to get a part down if I just use a skill I already have. And I can play other stickings, but the single stroke roll is most certainly going to be quicker to make it feel really solid. In other situations where it's like a syncopated groove, so we play a lot of like 1 E and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and if it's so fast that I can't just use one hand, or it just feels better to use two hands, then if something's going to land on 1 E on the then I'm most likely going to use my left hand based on that single stroke roll thing. 1 E and the is where my left hand lands. Say if I'm going to play the and of 2, 1 E, 2, and that's just going to automatically be my right hand. It doesn't have to be, but based on right, left, the single stroke roll and the fact that my right hand plays all the numbers in the ands, 1 E and 2. And the fact that it's the and of 2, it's just going to automatically be my right hand. So any number and any and, I generally play with my right hand. Any E or I'll play with my left hand. Again, if it needs to be a two-handed thing, if it's going to be a fast, like a chill speed, and I can just do it with one hand, and that happens often, and that's fine. But yeah, there's a lot of power in knowing your single stroke roll, like being very confident and being able to move to a different voicing on different counts, and not losing or breaking the pattern of the right, left, right, left, right, left of your single stroke roll. And I do have a video, and I'll link it below, and it's all about the fact that the single stroke roll is an essential ingredient to our drumming, and it really is something that you can use as a foundation for many different things, many different patterns, many different grooves or fills. So yeah, I hope that helps you, Timothy, and I hope it helps anyone else out there. So thanks for the question, Tim. All right, so next question comes from Nick. I'm sure there are loads on YouTube, but do you have any specific recommended drills or exercises to work on limb independence? As a new drummer, I've quickly found the right foot and right hand wanting to be in sync very hard to fight, even when slowing down. Anything involving constant eighth notes on the hand with kicks on the E or the R, I always find my hand automatically following the kicks and vice versa. So, this sort of groove, does it come up in this song? No. Has come up a decent amount. I'll just do, we praise you, this is what I live in. Okay, so in We Praise You, this is one of the most recent videos I've put out, there is a groove that sounds like this. 1 and R2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and R2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and R2 and... So that kick on the R of 1 and R2 and 3 and 4 and is the type of kick that Nick is talking about. So Nick, you're not alone here, 100%. So you're probably struggling with like your right hand wanting to play at the same time, right? Like 1 and R2 and we don't want to play the right on the R because its job is just eighth notes. 1 and R2 and I know you said that slowing it down doesn't help. So first thing, slow it down more. I would suggest. So 1 and R2 and go again. 1 and R2. Even slower if you need to. So at this point, we're not trying to make it sound like boom de boogad or boom de boogad. We just want to get each note correct. 1 and R2. And once you start teaching your body the order of notes, then it can slowly speed up and it'll be in your muscle memory. That's my first response. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be a jerk. The next kind of thing is, hey, you know, as an exercise, there's definitely an exercise for this. That you could go away from the rye, let's go onto the hi-hat. And really the skill we need is to play a kick with a hi-hat. We need to be able to play a hi-hat by itself, and then a kick by itself, and then a hi-hat by itself. But let's get rid of even that first kick and just focus on the kick in between hi-hats. So the drill could just be, or the exercise could be, hi-hat, kick, hi-hat, restart. Hi-hat, kick, hi-hat, restart. That's the drill. I know it's boring, but over time, it's going to sound like a connected rhythm. So instead of it sounding like single hit, single hit, single hit, as it gets faster, it's going to sound like da da ba da 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 da. And once that is super, super comfortable, then you can start to just not always put the kick there and then sometimes put the kick there, or put like no gaps between kicks that you do. So every gap of the hi-hats, every gap between hi-hats you could put kicks. So let me just show you what I mean. So no kicks for a while, I'm gonna add one kick in here. No kicks for a while, add a kick in, add a kick in, kick, kick. no kicks, add a kick in. I'm going to do 2 kicks. So then it just becomes like whenever you are feeling to put a kick in. And if you're fighting the feeling of, oh, it doesn't want to go there, then just slow it down again. Kind of right now, I'm just putting it in when I want to or when I feel to. So that would be a really good exercise to do. The next would be, okay, we also need to be able to put the kick with the hi-hat, right? But then we also need to do it without the hi-hat. So you could go really slow, like the actual, you know, this is the set exercise could be kick with hi-hat, hi-hat, kick without hi-hat, hi-hat by itself. So together, hat, kick, hat. Together, hat, kick, hat. And if this even feels like too hard, you have to slow it down so it's individual hits, individual notes in your head. So this is one hit, this is another hit, that's another hit, that's another hit. That was kind of too close together. It felt like one kind of it needs to be to start with at least. That's how slow I'm talking. Yeah. And obviously we're going to try and get that to the point where you can kind of randomize it. Sometimes put a kick with, sometimes put a kick in between. And we haven't even put the snare in yet. There is I think it's a good video that I made about a year ago, and I recently posted it on Patreon. It is about these tricky kicks in a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and like an 8th note hi-hat groove environment. I mentioned that in the video, I mentioned that this exercise or this concept could be utilized for many different groove environments, like a 16th note groove or a quarter note groove, and the list goes on. But I specifically show you it in an 8th note groove environment, and really all it is I am showing you kind of like the drill of, or the exercise of putting the kick on the 1 and the 3, and then once that feels comfortable, which it would because that's the first groove we all learn usually, then once that feels good, you move the kick to the E of 1 and the E of 3. So 1, E, and 2, and 3, E, and 4, and you just keep moving it through the 16th note grid until you're back to the start. And that's a really good exercise. It's a great warm-up. Lester commented on when I posted the video, he's like, that would be a great warm-up for me, because he just said he feels like it takes him a couple songs to get like a bit of that control back to his kick. And yeah, I think that's a great warm-up. The video for that on Patreon has all the Groove Scribe links below it, so you can actually instead of doing them all back to back, you can do them all individually if you want, as you're learning them. And again, super slow. It doesn't have to sound like the groove. You just have to get the order of the notes. And I know you said even like it's tough even while slowing it down, but my hope is that try and slow it down further so that it's just single notes in your head, and try those 2 little drills that I mentioned, and then the one with the kick going with the hi-hat as well. 1 da 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 da. So if you try those 2 and then work towards the full exercise that's in the video, I'll link that below this as well. It's the one about the tricky kicks. So I hope that helps, Nick. And Sarah, she had like I'll read the question in a second, but it kind of relates to what we were just talking about with like Nick's question about kicks on the E's and R's. So Sarah says, hello, I've been playing drums for a while now, but still struggle with things such as kicking on the offbeats, as well as doing different fills. I was wondering if you could do a video which included helpful tips on practicing and learning these and maybe some fun, simple fills to do during songs. I've just joined the worship team and would love some extra help with these to make songs sound more full but still simple. So thank you for that question, Sarah. Now, offbeats, depending on the way you're thinking about it, could be the E's and the R's. So it's like what I just showed for Nick's question could be super applicable. But you might be at a stage where not a stage, you might have just been thinking of the offbeats as the ands instead of the numbers. So it's sort of like this kind of groove, right? Where we have to play 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I know that that's tricky for quite a lot of people, or even 2 ands in one groove. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Those kind of grooves could be hard, and I know that they are initially. So if that's what you're talking about, Sarah, I'll sort of talk to that right now. If not, then I hope what I'm about to say helps someone. So the kind of, it's similar to kind of what we would do with the video I've been referencing, where you would try and hit the numbers and then try and hit the ands. So first thing I would suggest is just play hi-hat only and kick only, and just say to yourself, I'm going to hit all the numbers. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And notice the hi-hat is playing everything that we're saying. And then try and switch to all the ands. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And once that is feeling good, then you can try and just do specific counts. Like I want to hit the and of 2. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and. Or I want to hit the and of 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. Or you can combine. So let's do 1 and the and of 3. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and don't just stop there. Like do as many as you can think of in a practice session that you can handle, and then maybe once you feel like you've exhausted all your options, you can try and add the snares in on 2 and 4. So that would be, you know, let's say, okay, I'm gonna start with 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and like that has to happen. And I think it makes sense to include the kick on 1 most of the time. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Let me try and hit the and of 2. 1 and 2 and. It's allowed to be that slow, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and you might just struggle away with that one kick placement for a few minutes, and then it could start to feel comfortable, and then maybe try and move to the and of 3 and then try the and of 4. You could take the kick away from the 1 and try the and of 1. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And you could also try all the ands. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And most of the time, that will throw off your snare the first time. Give it a go. I'll show you one more time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So I hope that helps. If it feels like going slow isn't helping, go slower and to the point that you're just thinking about individual notes. Kick and hi-hat. Hi-hat by itself. Kick by itself. Hi-hat. Like it doesn't have to sound like the pattern at that stage. That's totally fine. So Sarah, also you asked about fills, and Lester also brought up the fact that he wanted some help with fills for worship as well. So let's talk about that. Now this topic I could, and just so you know, this is the second time I'm making this video because I did it earlier and the settings on my camera, I'm just using my iPhone, I didn't do the wide angle lens, so I think this was, you could only see below my nose. That was an hour and a half that I just will look at as a practice run. So, yep. In that video, when I did that recording, I kind of went down many kind of rabbit holes with the fills because it is a pretty long, well, I just feel like there's a lot of ways a lot of areas regarding fills that we could talk about. But I will say, firstly, you know, if you have watched any number of these tutorials, if you haven't, have a look. A lot of the time in these tutorials, I'll show you that fill. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4 and or it might be just on the snare. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and those two are fills that I use a heck of a lot of the time. So it's not that you need a whole heap of different ones, you just need to use a couple to start with until you feel like you're exhausting them and be like, okay, I do want something new. But what I'm going to do is let me just show you some ways that you can continue to use those 4E and fills, but maybe A, look at fills a little bit differently, but also B, just give you some specific ways that you can kind of beef up a bar so it feels like a bigger fill leading into a 4E and So a fill does not always have to be like moving around the drum kit. You don't always have to, you know, either go to the toms, so you don't have to move around the kit, nor do you have to go to that next subdivision, which is usually, we're usually in like say eighth notes, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 4 and is that doubling the rate of speed to that next subdivision. So you don't always have to do that for your fills. So what does that mean practically? Well, it just means that, you know, we can change our groove to have more snares or more kicks or layer stuff up, and then we can lead into the 4 or we can leave out the 4 sometimes we don't need it, just to fill in a bar and really give kind of a varied, like have a variation of our main groove. So let me sort of demonstrate one of these that you could try. Now this is just going to be kick, kick, snare, and kick, kick, snare, and as our main groove here. And I'm going to do 3 bars of that, and then in the 4th bar I'm going to play a fill. Now, as you can see, I just beefed up my groove a bit leading into the fill. So 1 and was kind of what I was already doing, and then 2 and I added an extra snare on, and then 3 and I added a snare in between my 3 and kicks. So 3 and, or you can think of it as right, left, right. And then I played my 4E and which could have been 4E and around the kit. So 4E and it could have been that. So let me show you the fill bar again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and or let me go to the toms. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and Now, sometimes a fill bar could just be 1 or 2 extra notes. Let me go with 2 extra notes. No, not 2 extra notes. 1 extra note and 1 moved note. So, I am going to play 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and... So the difference here is normally I don't have that snare in between the kicks. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so already 1 and 2 and 3 and is extra, and that could be enough, right? But what I've also done is 4. I usually have been playing the snare on the 4, so instead of 4 and, I'm going to play 4 and. I'm moving the snare later in the bar. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now this is one that doesn't need a 4 or going around the toms or anything, and it's not like big or fancy or flashy, and oftentimes these are the fills we use more. So let me show you the fill itself again, and then I'll play it in a 4-bar phrase. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and one more time. 1 and 2 and right, left, right, 4 and. Now let me play it in a 4-bar phrase. Alright, so far I've shown you 2 examples that you could try, but more than that I want it to be a concept that you can play around with. Okay, can I add more snares in? 1 and 2, maybe I could add snares on the end of 1. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 E and. I love that kind of one where you put the kick on the E leading into the and. Sorry. 1. I don't know, like any of that could be a fill. But let me also talk about the other sort of side of things that I thought of as well. A lot of times there's a lot of builds in worship. Maybe it's here, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and or 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and or it could be on the hi-hat. And a lot of times a build could be like ages long, 3 or 4 bars, or ages long, 8 bars. But sometimes a build could just be 1 bar long or even half a bar long, and that's a fill, right? So let me just play a build in the 4th bar. And I'll be playing here initially, and then the build will lead me into the ride. That was pretty cool. Or it could be ending in 4 eander. This time I'll just do it on the 2nd bar instead of 4 bars. I'm not expecting you to learn those builds, but just think, like, we can all hit our right hand, our left hand, and our kick all at the same time. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 eander. Going to a 4 eander on beat 4 after 1 and 2, and wherever you decide to play that can really work really well. So for instance, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 eander, or 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 eander 1. And then oftentimes a stop on the 4, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Or it might be on the end of 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That often, stopping on the end often works better in a 16th note build, like 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and... Sorry, I know that's really loud. So that can help. So just, I wanted to kind of take a chance to say, hey, a fill doesn't always have to be going around the kit. It can be in a groove, and it can be a build, sorry. It can be a build. Yes, fills can be going around the kit and stuff, but I do think I play less going around the kit kind of fills than I do of the ones I showed you today. Like those are the kind of ones I use more. So I hope that helps you and anyone else that this applies to. So this next one comes from Paul. Paul says, hi, I have been consistently self-learning drums for the past 12 months. With some concentration, I probably can play about 5 and growing worship songs start to finish. Awesome job, man. That is really, really cool. Ultimately, I would love to play in a band with other musicians. I am a member of a local church, but I think they look all sorted for drummers. Some band and jamming experience would be good. Where to start? Okay, firstly, 100%. Like, you need to practice on your own to start with. Like, that's what I think. And I think that never dies, that never ends. Like, you need that time by yourself to figure stuff out, to learn songs. But yeah, playing in a band or just with 1 or 2 other musicians is like incredible for your drumming. So I definitely back it. I definitely think it's a great idea. Now, I guess to help me answer you, or to help me kind of like talk about this, my question for you, Paul, is what's your goal? Like, do you just want to jam? Is drumming for you just like an outlet of kind of fun? Or is it something where you're trying to become a pro drummer and get paid to play, whether it's cover gigs like weddings or whatever? Or is it like you really know that drumming is just an expression of worship, and you really feel pulled to be doing this in a worship context in church? So think about that first. And any of those answers is fine. Like personally, I've kind of felt all 3 at times, like just wanted to jam with people because that was really fun. Played in a cover band for a while and did that as a paid thing for a couple of years, and definitely grew a lot from that. And that's why I definitely back playing with a band, with other musicians and in a band. And I've always sort of played in church, but I definitely have like just gotten okay with the fact that, for me, I really just feel that I really come alive when it's in a worship context, especially where I can release kind of just what I feel Holy Spirit is doing. And so, like, I definitely love playing songs and playing them well and doing that with a team who's doing it well. But probably more than that, I really love the free worship and spontaneous stuff. So I know my kind of goals and what I really like doing. So that's important. So let's talk about if you're just wanting to jam for fun with another musician. Firstly, it doesn't have to be a full band. It could just be one other musician, or maybe 2. Like one, play with a piano, or play with an acoustic guitarist or an electric guitarist, or just a bass player. Definitely, it's going to feel like you can let it rip a little more when there's more musicians, but there's pros and cons to each kind of approach. But let's just say you only really need to play with one other musician to start with. So start thinking, do you know anyone either in your close family or extended family that is a musician, or do you have any friends that play an instrument at any level? Or let's go back to the whole, you're at a local church and there's musicians there. Like, you could talk to any one of them and just say, hey, I'm learning the drums and I'd love to have a jam, whether it's I've been working on these worship songs. Do you think we could play that? You could totally do that. So reach out, and if you just feel like you're coming up against hard walls there and nothing's kind of opening up, then social media, Facebook is a good option. Like sometimes there are like musician pages for local areas. So maybe try and find musicians in your local area, like a Facebook page for that. And you can maybe, put a post on something like that to just ask if there's anyone who's interested. My thought and my feeling is the fact that you are on this platform, you're a member of the InSync Drums Patreon page. That I obviously see that you're invested in the worship context, like drumming in the worship context. So I know you said the worship team look all sorted for drummers, but I would just say don't let that stop you from reaching out to the team, whether it's, again, just one of the members on the team, or if it is the worship, like the leader of the worship team, the worship pastor or whatever, you guys might call them. And just say, hey, like you guys look like you're all sorted, but I really have a passion for worship and I'm learning the drums and I'd love just the opportunity to maybe sit in for one song in a practice and these are the songs I can play. Or if that doesn't work, maybe, oftentimes the worship pastoral leader would be okay with sitting down with you and having a jam. And a jam could be like, let's play the songs that you've been working on. So I would just say don't let it stop you from reaching out. It's just maybe have a think about what it is your goals are with it. I hope that helps, Paul. So Lester has another question. Lester actually comes to lessons here during the week and he's a legend. I really look forward to my lessons with Lester. So his question is, hey mate, we practiced Fresh Wind tonight and most of it was decently done by me and the pianist. While it was fairly accurate as far as rhythm, pace and beat, it just felt quite hollow. We didn't have a guitarist though, which may not have helped. I was just thinking whether or not it's one of those songs that need more instruments if we were to play it. Thoughts? Okay, let me just move my seat so there we go. So I can definitely say I can relate to this because I am on a smaller team myself. The biggest team we generally have is a piano player, an acoustic guitarist, and a drummer. Like that's about as big as it gets. Sometimes swap that out for an acoustic guitar, like swap the acoustic guitar out for an electric. But oftentimes it is just piano and drums, or piano and guitar, or just piano, or just guitar. But the ones that I relate to, because I'm drumming, are either just drumming with acoustic or just drumming with a piano player, or all three of those. So that's just to say I do relate. And in a situation like that where it just feels a bit hollow, a bit empty, like nothing's exactly wrong, I think it's just part of what comes with having heard the recording that is so full. Like Fresh Wind, there's like a whole string section in that, and there's a lot of bass and like synthy pads that are just soft and full and filling out the frequency spectrum. And the main thing you can hear is the vocals and the piano and the drums, and then those strings kind of pop out as well. But I would just say just push through. That's what I often just have to do. Like it just feels so different from what you've been listening to and practicing along with, and then changing to just having the drums and the piano and someone singing. It just does feel different. But yeah, I would definitely say having the guitarist in there would fill up more of the frequency spectrum and just feel like it's more full. I think that would definitely help. And then sometimes, what I am just mentally doing to try and make what we're playing sound good with these limited instruments is maybe I'll add more in. Like, can I put more kicks in? Does that make it feel more full? Or is it something where it just would sound better if I played for less of the song? kind of my thinking there is a lot of the songs we hear, the drums might, well, let's just say some of the songs might have the drums playing the whole time, but it's a band with a whole heap of instruments so that they can use the other instruments to layer and build dynamically. When you've only got a piano and a drummer, there's only so far, if you're both playing all the time, there's only so much dynamically that you can change. So I'll often just try and sit out of the song for longer to let it breathe more, and then let the dynamic shift more by coming in after a longer period of time. So that's something that I think about. And like whether or not that's applicable to you, I'm not sure. But I guess like it definitely happens where you try it a couple times, maybe in practice, and you go, this just isn't good. But yeah, that's kind of where my thoughts go for that list. So I hope that helps. All right, so next question is from Kelly. She says, "Hi Sam, I have learnt so much with you since you have started. Your teaching skills in the videos are brilliant, particularly the way you break things down and count it out." Thank you so much, Kelly. I really appreciate that. "I would really like to learn more difficult stuff. Would you consider an intermediate level? I've progressed so much and want to keep learning from you." So I did reply to Kelly, and we had a bit of a conversation about it, but I just wanted to take an opportunity to say, like, to share about this to you, because I just want to be open and inclusive to you about kind of what my goals and plans are and what you could potentially expect, and let's talk about this together. Maybe you have some thoughts on this. So my short answer is no, I don't have anything that is catering to that next level above what these simple drum parts that I have tutorials and resources for. And I'm really leaning into that simple drum kind of level because I've just found it resonates with plenty of people. I believe that's why you guys are here currently. And I just felt like it was a kind of group of the worship drumming community that wasn't super well looked after. And it's just something that, like, simplifying drum parts is something that I do all the time for my students here, whether it's my lessons at home or lessons at the schools that I go to. And it just felt like a natural thing for me to do. And because it is resonating with a lot of people, I've just sort of lent into that. And it was like a confirmation, like, hey, this is definitely a skill I have that is benefiting others. And so the reason why that's the reason why I'm like leaning into the simple drums thing. And the short answer right now is I just don't have time to add something else in to focus on kind of that next level. That's not to say I don't want to. In fact, I do. I would love to. And it's kind of felt like a good opportunity for me to share with you my goals. So this membership is income for me, and at the beginning I knew it wouldn't be life-changing, and that's totally fine. It's been some nice little extra stuff for whether it's going towards bills or maybe a gift for my wife's birthday present, or just little things like that, or to go towards my hobby, which is mountain biking, and there's gear and parts to replace and all that sort of stuff. Or whether it's, feeding back into what we're doing here, or having to buy equipment like buying more drumsticks and that sort of thing, which it definitely has. But I definitely envision if this is, continuing to grow, then it can become more of an income for me and my family. That would mean that I could, and I would like to, cut back on my private drum lessons during the week. So currently I do 5 days of private drum lessons a week, and they're not all full days. So how I fit where I fit time in to be doing this sort of stuff for you guys and all the tutorials, I fit it on a Monday where I have 1 week I have 4 or so hours free, and then the next week I have 6 hours free. So that's the day that I have time to put towards filming and editing. One day I'll be able to, as this membership grows, I'll be able to cut back on the Mondays, hopefully, potentially, and just do 4 days a week and have more time to put into videos for you guys. So that's the first goal, and of, you know, cutting back to 4 days a week of private drum lessons so that I can have one full day. And what I would aim to do is actually double the amount of tutorials that I'm making, from one every fortnight to one every week. And my plan is to keep the pricing for the membership the same, but just to add more value. And yeah, I kind of see all these requests for songs come in, and I just feel like, I can't keep up with it, like, and I really would like to. And I still won't be able to, you know, do every single song all the time, but it would serve you more. I think it would be more valuable to have more tutorials available more often. So that's kind of where we're aiming for, right? And then at some point, maybe I could cut back to 3 days a week of private drum lessons, which would give me another day. And I would love to start working on some courses that would be kind of that next level of drumming that, you know, Kelly's kind of asking for. And I'm sure that at some point, some other people would be interested in that as well. So whether it is courses of just like, you know, okay, let's work on some 3-way independence, which allows you to do this kind of thing in drumming, or let's work on some accent freedom, which allows you to do these kind of things in your worship drumming. Like, it's always going to be based around worship drumming, but I'm leaning towards courses instead of just having another, like doing 2 song tutorials, one that's kind of simplified and then one that's like more closer to the original. So that's where my head is at, and yeah, I just kind of wanted to let you in on that and let you know what we're aiming for. I hope you see value in this. Let me know if you do. Let me know if you don't. Would love feedback on this first one. And much love and appreciation and blessings to you all. I will see you in the next one.